Hi, everyone. Welcome to the September edition of Rinkside. I'm Bill Meltzer, along with Hallie Taylor Simon. We're happy you're here. We're recording this on September the 11th, the first day of rookie camp for the Flyers. I don't know about you, Hallie, but it felt this offseason felt positively endless to me. It's been since I guess the middle of April since any kind of meaningful puck was on the ice for the Flyers. Yesterday, Dan Hilferty and Keith Jones gave kind of a state of the rebuild press conference, and we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet. What were your takeaways from it?
I had a couple of takeaways. One, I like what Jones had to say about Matvey Michkov, about how he wants to be a star in the league. That to me gave me some reassurance. However, another takeaway that I had was from Dan Hilferty, and he essentially said that the fan in him wants to see the team go to the playoffs, but realistically, that may not be in the Flyers' book this season.
Yeah.
And I think that really does speak for the whole fan base. I know that there's fans that are frustrated. And I think Dan voicing that just kind of gave reassurance to, hey, we know this whole rebuild has been a little bit frustrating. And another topic too was the no comment when asked about Carter Hart.
Yeah.
I thought that was also something that was interesting, just due to all of the rumors surrounding his name lately.
Yeah, and with Carter, I think the longer this goes, whether it's the Flyers or the Oilers or any other team, it's now been a year and a half since he played any hockey at all. I'm wondering if and when the reinstatement happens, because my sense is if it happens, it'll be into the season, about midway through the season almost. I'm wondering if the next step is some organization, whether it's the Flyers or otherwise, offers them some kind of an American League deal, and then because you can always convert an American League deal into an NHL contract, because they're free agents as far as the NHL is involved. So kind of see how you kind of test the waters a little bit with it. I don't think anybody's jumping into anything with Carter right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised they didn't comment on it either which way. I think that would be any organization at this point. They're going to be very cautious about how they approach it. I thought, it was really, on the one hand, yes, we'd like to make the playoffs, but also understanding that to go from 76 points to a playoff team, you're talking about a 20-point improvement. That's a lot in a year.
It is.
They're going to rely on internal development. Matvey Michkov taking the next step towards stardom. Maybe he's already even a star, but towards superstardom. Seeing other guys, Tyson Forster could take that next step and be a 30-goal guy, for example. If Cam York can get back on track after a bit of a down year last year, it's a lot of ifs. It's a lot of things that have to happen. And the two biggest pieces to me, and I think pretty much everybody, right? It's the goaltending. I like what Jonesy said about Sam Ersson, because he has shown stretches for a month at a time, 6 weeks at a time, where he's looked really good. He's looked even potentially like a starter in the NHL. But on the flip side, he's been hurt a lot, and he's had stretches of weeks at a time too, where the pucks aren't hitting him. So, I mean, I like the way that I believe in him, that he has the physical ability, has the mental toughness, but he's got to prove it. He has competition there. The jury's going to be out on the goaltending, whether that's Dan Vladar or one of the Russian guys or Sam, for a while yet. That's why it's hard to really say the Flyers are going to improve enough to be a playoff team this year. And of course, Hallie, the other part of that too is the power play. And I think the power play will be better this year. There's really almost nowhere to go but up. But okay, so you go from 15% to 18% or 19% even. You're still, because of the way power plays are nowadays, 19% still puts you in the bottom third of the league. That'd be a nice step forward. Just by, if you're 19%, maybe you're in the bottom third of the league, but that's the difference between 19 and 21%. There's a big difference between 15 and 20. That the Flyers have to figure that out in a hurry. There's not much track record yet for Yogi Svikovsky, so can't say that he has a knack for turning power plays around. I know he's a bright, still fairly young hockey guy. I do think his ideas on the power play. I know one thing he detests is players just standing around, and or just banging pucks from the point and hoping that you get enough traffic in front that something gets through. He wants guys darting in and out of the shooting lanes, going in front of the net, passing the puck a lot till somebody makes a mistake on the other side. That's kind of the formula for how today's power plays work. The old school get it back to the point and get traffic in front. It works sometimes, but the Flyers don't have that proven point shooter yet. So I think that my biggest concern, to sum them up, then I'll ask you, as we head towards camp, we don't know how the depth chart is going to play out down the middle, the centers. That's a big one. Another big one is while I think individually all their prospective defensemen are bona fide NHL players, and to the point where Emil Andre might have a hard time making this team. And that's a guy who I thought in the first half of last year before injury looked like he belonged in the NHL. But the trend around the league is to go bigger on defense, and I'm not sure if Emil's going to fit in the plan this year. So, but there's no real true number one by default. Travis Sanheim's the number one, and he's to me he's a good solid top 3 defenseman in the NHL. Is he a real number one? Not really, right? So we talked about the goaltending, we talked about the center depth chart, and the defense doesn't have their version, of not that anybody at Colorado is Cal McCarr, but you know what I'm saying. The real true number one guy, those are 3 elements pretty big to work around. To me, I think if the Flyers could improve by 10 points, get to 86, which is still probably not in playoff range, then I think the other things that the management people were talking about, to where you're well shaped up for the long term, whether it's cap wise or whatever, then I think that's in motion, even though you wouldn't be a playoff team this year. But I think before you get from now till then, I think there's a lot still to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the Flyers, I think that, next offseason will be a completely different story than this one. They'll have money, so they can make some moves that they weren't able to make this offseason. But the gist that I'm getting from Briere and Jones, especially Danny, is that they're kind of on pace right now with the rebuild, that they don't seem too concerned about being behind track, and this is where they want to be. But I do think for this season, to your credit, Bill, I think they could improve by 10 points. I could even see them improving maybe a little bit under or a little bit above. I think that they're going to be a team that's going to struggle. And the thing with the Flyers that's really interesting, it always kind of makes me laugh, is that they do go on these runs where they play really good, strong, competitive hockey. And then they just go flat. And we see this a lot, but it gets the fans excited and it makes the fans believe that this is a playoff team. Now, what I will say is that the Flyers do have playoff players in a sense. I think you have a guy like a Travis Konechny who is built for the playoffs. You have Michkov, who I think would thrive in the playoffs. You have Tyson Forster, who doesn't get talked about enough, who is such a strong player. But on the other hand, there are some guys on the team, and it's not me trying to be disrespectful, but Bobby Brink, how would he even do in the playoffs? Like, it's players like that where I want the best for them, but with the Flyers not being that competitive in a long time, it's hard to truly say. And under Coach Rick Tocchet, this is a team I think that's going to actually have a better environment in the locker room. I think that they're going to try to really get in these guys' heads what it means to be a Philadelphia Flyer. And obviously, being a Flyer, we can talk about the Broad Street Bullies, but it could also be, hey, look what happened in the 2010s with that cup run. So there's a lot of great voices and faces now in the organization that were former Flyers. And I think having coach talk it, when I asked Keith Jones about this, he said it had nothing to do with him being a former Flyer. He was the best possible person to coach this team. And I think having him, and I think his passion for the Flyers and wanting the team to succeed alongside with Briere and Jones is going to install something that John Tortorella just couldn't do. And it's not a disrespect to Tortorella. It's just a factual statement. John Tortorella wasn't a Philadelphia Flyer. You have a coach who was a Philadelphia Flyer. So I think that it's a little bit different. But I do hope for the younger guys that they thrive. I do. Like I was saying to Bill before we began the show, that Spencer Gill is somebody that I'm rooting for. And I truly am. But he might still be a couple years away. I think he will be a couple years away. And I would rather these guys develop than just get put into a situation where they're not ready to be put in. But I think this is going to be probably one of the hardest training camps to make the team. I really don't see so many fresh new faces making the team at a camp. I think this is going to be a really tough one.
I totally agree. You know, Alex Bump, I think, probably has a good shot of making the team. We're going to get to Jett Luchanko in a second because he's a guy who is coming into camp presumably with a chance because he's still stuck in that situation where the AHL age rule is not in the Flyers' favor on this. It's not going to. They're not going to readdress the issue, the NHL and the CHL, until next June. So it's not coming this year, which means the Flyers once again are faced with a choice. Let's assume that Jett is healthy and playing. You know that he either has to be on the NHL roster or he has to go back to the OHL, and it's not. I'm not sure he's ready for the NHL, but I know he's ready for the American League. And players can fall into bad habits sometimes with an extra junior year because it's not challenging for them anymore. A lot of these players, so you know, his play will dictate it. But you know, I just that's such an antiquated rule anyway, and it's a very one-sided kind of a rule. Now, there's plenty of players who are not ready for the American League or you know, even the ECHL, you know, at 18, 19 years old. But you have the players that are exceptions who are ready to be pros, but they're maybe not ready for a regular NHL role. And with Luchanko, okay, if he say he is on the NHL roster, well, I don't think having him on the fourth line or in and out of the lineup is, I mean, I think he needs to be playing. I think he needs to be playing a lot of minutes too. So I think sometimes advancing a player's development, it's a little harder in year two. And that's right after the draft. And also year two as a pro. How many Flyers prospects have we seen have that good first year in the American League and they can't follow it up the second year? Elliot Desnoyers being a very recent example. He led the Phantoms in scoring. He actually outscored Tyson Forster his first year. And he just went backwards and he couldn't get it back. J.R. Avon, promising rookie season with the Phantoms, but he didn't really progress last year. You know, and so on and so forth. You know, you could say other examples in a lot of different organizations. I think because the bar gets raised, the expectations get higher. And not a lot of players can follow that up. So, I mean, Luchanko and Dan Silver and I discussed this on the OMB podcast the other day because I'm very high on Luchanko, not just because the organization says so, but I look at Jett and I see a guy who can really, really, really skate.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the best skating prospects in terms of just pure speed. In the NHL, Flyers haven't had a prospect with that kind of pure breakaway speed and sense and quickness that he has in quite a while. Number two, he's a very good playmaker. I'm not sure he's going to be the goal scorer, but he's a very good playmaker and passer. So if you're open, he'll get you the puck. And the third part of it is the two-way ability, because that's what got him on the team last year. His play without the puck is very advanced for really for a guy in his 20s, right? But he's still only 19, so I'm very high on him, but I'm a little concerned about the developmental side, and I'm starting to get a little bit of concern until there's something that really reassures us about potential, possible physical issues because of this. He missed development camp where he said, little groin issues, some bumps and bruises from last year. Okay. Understand that because he went to the Phantoms at the end of the year, and he played games in the playoff run with the Phantoms, and on a terrible Guelph team, he had to absorb 25 minutes a night. I get it. That's fine, right? Okay, but then that's July. Then you get into early August, and it's the World Junior Summer Showcase. Well, he's still not quite there. He's still a little bit banged up. We're just going to be cautious. He's not going to play in the tournament. There's no medals at stake. Really, it's a show what you can do. He's already on the World Junior team a year ago. We're just going to be cautious. Okay, understand that. Now we're in September 11th specifically. It's the first day of rookie camp, and he's held off the ice as a precaution, and he's not going to play in the rookie games, if we're reading this correctly, but he should be ready for day one of training camp. Now I'm a little bit concerned because now this is stretch over 2 months of precaution, and I really, really, really hope he's on the ice day one of training camp, and we're not talking about any other kinds of setbacks. So this hopefully this conversation doesn't age very well. But I'm really I'm concerned until proven otherwise because we've heard this we've heard this song before, not just in the Flyers organization but around the game, and I'll feel a lot better when I see him on the ice and performing. Do you have any concerns, Sally?
Oh, absolutely. This is actually very concerning. This is not news you want to get like a week before training camp actually begins. Right now, we're in rookie camp. And the thing with Jett is I can go on and kind of say the exact same things that you did, Bill, regarding why I like him as a player. I spoke with Jett at the draft, and this was in Vegas, a couple years ago. Time goes by fast. And I said, who do you model your game around? And he said Travis Konechny. And not only do I see Konechny within him, but I see like a Lightning McQueen in him. He is such a fast skater, and his edges, everything. It's beautiful skating. So just from that alone, it's really frustrating knowing that he may not be to the best of his ability health-wise, because he does add a lot to the ice with his two-way play. And I like how you mentioned too that he's able to get anybody the puck. And that is a skill that Jett really did work on. I watched Jett Luchanko a lot this past year, and he is able to feed his teammates the pucks in situations where the average player wouldn't be able to do so. He's not an average player. He is such a special talent. And it is frustrating because you want him to continue to develop, continue to improve. The OHL, in my opinion, it's not challenging enough for him. The AHL would be. The NHL would be too challenging. So that whole role of the AHL is frustrating because how can you tell me in the NHL you're able to have, and I'm just using this as an example because he's a well-known name, a guy like Connor Bedard, 18-year-old young player, and you're going to make him the face of the NHL, essentially, is what I'm seeing. But yet, you can't have guys in that age go to the AHL. It doesn't make sense to me. And it's a very frustrating situation for Jett. And that's why I was really hoping for this camp for him to just shine, because I think that between the OHL and the NHL, I'd rather him be in the NHL and get a little bit less minutes, just due to the fact that I'm afraid he's not going to develop properly in the OHL. And we've seen this, as you mentioned, with development. I mean, the last thing that the Flyers need right now is Jett not to pan out. That's the last thing. And with injury, we don't know what's going on. We don't know. We don't know. And that's the other problem, is we really don't know. And we're not going to find out until he either says something or the organization does. But right now, I'm just thinking the worst. So it is frustrating, Bill. yeah, definitely not good now that we're here in September 11th, and he's not going to be at the showcases at all. It makes me very nervous about what is actually going on with him. At least with Tyson Forster, they've been a little bit more open and they've communicated. But in terms of Jett, nothing.
Yeah, and as far as Forrester goes, that it's all looking up right now. He has to pass his physical and whatever, but he was at the golf outing the other day, hitting the ball 300 plus yards, and
Oh, that's good.
says he feels fine, and Danny Breyer indicated as much a few weeks ago during the Flyers development camp. All the reports are good. He's responded to the treatment, but players still have to undergo their physicals, and he has to be cleared. There's no reason for him to do scrimmages, obviously, until he's cleared. So that's a little bit of a different situation. But I'll be relieved to see him on the ice too at the end of next week when camp starts. Last thing I want to say about Luchanko, I think sometimes there's a tendency for people to just look at raw numbers and assume that that correlates exactly to development. I think if you watched Guelph last year, and you did watch Jett, like that Guelph Storm team was brutal. That was a terrible hockey team, and nobody was on the same wavelength as him. He was thinking a step or two ahead of his teammates, and he would get them the puck to where they should be, and either they weren't there or they couldn't finish. So really, if you watched Guelph and understood how bad they were, the numbers that he had on that team were actually not bad at all. I mean, I think that for being if he would have been on a team like the London Knights, for example, I think you would have seen him over a full season be about a 92, 94 point player, at that level. I mean, and a lot of that too is that he's still developing as a goal scorer, but I think his development is right where it needs to be. I think people read too much into his numbers weren't great in his draft plus 1 year, and I'm telling you, don't worry about the numbers. He's developing just the way they want him to.
Yeah, and selfishly, I really don't want to watch any more golf hockey, so that's why. I have to tell you, to take people inside.
We haven't had too much luck with the Guelph guys. I mean, I remember Isaac Ratcliffe, and I thought Ratty was going to make it. I really thought Ratty was going to be like a late blooming power forward.
Yeah.
He had that 50 goal. That's back when Guelph was still, but they were a better team at that time.
Isaac Ratcliffe. Oh my gosh.
But I really thought Ratty was going to make it, and he didn't. And then Jett is there when they're at their lowest point in a generation. So it's so yeah. Good. Let's not talk more about golf.
You know what's funny though? When I was doing my draft preparation work a couple years ago, and I saw Jett's name. I didn't think they were going to take him, honestly. I don't think a lot of people did. But I saw that he was on golf, and I was like, oh gosh, no, not this guy. And then I actually began watching some of the games and watching tape. And I'm like, oh, he's really good. So it is surprising because they really have not been a good hockey team lately. But when we have to do research and when we have to watch tapes of teams that are not so good, it's brutal.
Oh, it's is. Brutal. I mean, the only bright spot is if you watch a London Knights team where they're loaded with talent.
Yep.
Then you have to see, is he someone who makes his teammates better or teammates making him look better? I mean, there's a lot of different things you look at, and then you look at how much ice time how much trust does he get from the coaches there in key situations? That's one of the reasons why I really like Denver Barkey before we switch gears here, because even in his draft year, if you watch those OHL playoffs that year, Dale Hunter kept sending him over the boards over and over and over again. And last year was the captain of the team that won the Ontario League, won the Memorial Cup, and he started out the year with mono. I mean, he wasn't himself. And
it was a brutal start for him.
Yeah. And but he really came on as the season moved along. So just another guy to watch, and a good thing he was on the ice and ready to roll, because he had the high ankle sprain during the OHL playoffs. He did come back just because that's what players do, but he's healthy now. He's fine. So that's all positive to see. So, but I'm going to switch gears here. We are Ringside, and we haven't talked about WWE yet at all this episode. So last time we talked, it was just before SummerSlam. When to get your take on, first of all, on Brock Lesnar coming back.
I was so shocked, Bill. I was watching, and then all of a sudden I hear the intro to his music, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way."
Yeah,
I think too, like with everything going on, out of the ring and behind the scenes and stuff, I just didn't think he was going to come back. So that was a shock, and it made sense why Cena went back to being a babyface
yeah.
because you can't have a heel Cena and a Brock Lesnar, but. Oh my goodness, that was completely shocking, and I couldn't believe it. I really could not believe it. That made the entire program worth it.
That was a legitimate shock, right?
Yeah.
Um, whether it's in the ring, all the stuff going on out of the ring, that whole controversy, which
Yeah.
we won't even touch in this episode, but I was not expecting to see him back. The thing with Lesnar is you see him and everybody knows he's a legitimate badass. That's a wrestling personality is your real personality magnified. His isn't magnified that much. That's pretty much
No.
him. So, that's I'm really interested to see how it'll turn out at WrestlePalooza against Cena. You know, I think it depends. I think this depends also on how much Brock is going to stick around this time. But with Cena, now I'm going to do the air quote thing. He's retiring on December 13th, and maybe he's taking time. Maybe he's taking extended time off again. I've watched wrestling for enough years to know very few are actually truly retired and never come back. So
It could be 10 years and someone comes back.
yeah, that's he'll do whatever he's doing, whether it's whether he does other movie projects. I don't know what he's going to do, but but I mean, honestly, he's a natural baby face anyway. He cuts good promos, right? But
Yeah.
I never bought him as a heel. I mean, because
No.
you've seen enough of his real personality to know that and how appreciative he is of fans and how good he
Yeah.
is with kids and the whole Make-A-Wish thing and all of that it's just a storyline, and he was going to be a face again eventually anyway. So I'm curious though. Let's pretend that he really does retire on December 13th and he never comes back to the ring. What's your opinion of his career? And just in general, like how did he impact you as a fan?
Oh man, that's gonna be a tough one. I don't think he's actually gonna be gone, as you stated.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see him like at a Rumble again at some point. But John Cena is wrestling, and it's so hard to imagine the WWE without John Cena. One of the greats, like even the jean shorts, something as silly as that, he made cool and relevant. But he's one of the best. He is a Hall of Famer. He's a goat. Like there's no other way to describe it. It's gonna be a really, really weird day. His last and final match. But I mean, there's been so many great moments like him and Roman. Like again, like I could go on and list all of the great matches with John Cena and his opponents, but I think the best way to describe John Cena is that you're not going to see literally, you're not going to see anyone else like him. And I know that was a little bit of a pun. But you're really not, Bill. Like this guy was my childhood, and you grow up and all you know was Cena, and now you're not going to see him.
And I think that the biggest takeaway for me with Cena is that I think when you first get into wrestling, I think you get it more than when you are so-called smart, the business, because John Cena's never been about spectacular ring work or anything like that. He's fine. He's fine from a technical standpoint, right? I mean, he's not spectacular, but he doesn't have to be. It's all about the persona. It's all about the way he interacts with an audience. For a long time, he was the top baby face, and there was that that segment of the fan base that just delighted in booing him. But
Yeah.
he didn't even handle it. That's the thing. Like he was, like he was just John Cena. So it was like, and eventually a lot of the people that that booed him, Cena wins, we riot. That crowd, they miss him. They miss him when he's gone now because he's, I mean, you go all the way back to where. I would have loved to seen some of those training sessions in Ohio Valley because that was one heck of a class of young talent that they had there. And they all broke into the business, and I mean, credit where it's due to Jim Cornette because he was at the head of that, and he recognized the guys who had the it factor, and that thing with CM to me, the number one thing is he always had the it factor,
Yeah.
And now, I know some will say, and I've heard it said, well, could he have made in the old school era where you're not, for lack of a better word, scripted on a promo, you're
You're
really
just doing it.
winging it, but he didn't wrestle in that era. The point is, and I would bet you, that had he wrestled in that era, he would have adapted and been fine because I think he's one of those guys that ultimately transcended the era he was in. Whether that was Cena, whether that was Kurt Angle, there's a very few guys that can do that, have wrestled at any time and have gotten over. And to me, that's been what John has done. And in developing the next generation, they've come close with some guys, but I don't think there's anybody that's of the stature of a Steve Austin or of a Cena, and that's something moving forward. They could try to make stars, but ultimately the stars make themselves.
I think the closest might be Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, absolutely. She's she's bigger than women's wrestling on the whole. She transcends it. She's just tremendous. Honestly, we were talking about who could have made another era. Well, she would have been too good for another era. Honestly, because you go back and you watch old school wrestling, which is where I come from, right? But it's like, could I imagine Rhea Ripley in the ring with the Fabulous Moolah? No, I couldn't, right? Could I imagine even like the Wendy Richter? No, she's just in a whole other level. So
Right.
No matter how you book it, it would have just seemed like, okay, well, you booked it that way, but she's clearly way better.
Rhea and Lita.
Lee's another one too. Lee's
That
another
could
one
have
too. Yeah. Just
That's where the video games come into play.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, but I'm really happy to see in women's wrestling that it's like there's it's his own thing, right? It's really that's something that really has taken off in the last 20 years. That as opposed to just being, just let's say a side attraction or
Yes.
the card. It's his own thing that people are actually into that storyline, following the characters and the women that do it are really, really, really good at what they do. I I think that the ones who get in it for the right reasons, and to me the right reasons are because you want to be in the business, not because you want to use wrestling as a stepping stone to something else. And if you can ultimately do something else, that's fine. But I think the ones who came in with the idea of wrestling as a stepping stone might have had their little brief run of popularity at one point. But the ones that actually transcended the business, like Trish Stratus obviously being at the
Yeah.
top of the list, they really did help change the business in a very positive kind of way. And I think that people that say, well, the business is not as good as it used to be, and I'm sometimes there in certain ways. I think you have to give credit where it's due.
Yeah. I agree. And I'm actually curious on your take on this, Bill. But again, like I even have a hard time with him. Logan Paul. I believe like he is athletic, and I'm not going to deny that. But do you think, and again, like this is where I'm a little bit iffy that he deserves to be where he is in the WWE? Or do you think that it's taking away an opportunity from someone like a Trick Williams that might deserve a call up, or even somebody that it's not even in NXT, maybe in the independent scene,
Yeah.
who isn't a quote unquote famous YouTuber that wants to pursue wrestling as their main career, not a side gig?
No, I'm right there with you. You know, like I I mean, I'm still old school in this way that I believe that you get into the business for the right reason, you pay your dues, and you know, you're working the indies, right? You're
Yep.
developing what works for you, what doesn't work for you, um, and you know, so along the way you're going to work both heel and baby face at different times, right? You find who you are and you find what works, and then then a lot of times and I'm sorry, I instinctively say you go to Vince, but you go to the WWE, and they
Yeah.
decide you're something else. And but the ones the ones that seem to work with are the ones that really not just know different moves, but really understand the psychology of what they're doing in the ring yet. And Logan Paul just he doesn't grab me. Not
No. Because it's like I think about different wrestlers now, like a Liv Morgan who had absolutely no money and had to work a bunch of different jobs in order to even get time in the ring. Damian Priest, who used to go to training and he would sleep in his car. Like there's so many different wrestlers that didn't have easy upbringings. And then you have guys like a Dominic Mysterio, who I know I praise a lot, but while yes, he does have the name Mysterio, he does work so hard and he respects it so much. And with Logan, my concern is, and this is where I'm a little bit frustrated with Triple H, is that you're allowing these celebrities. And I know that they had celebrities in the past make appearances, but you're having a quote unquote celebrity, because I don't see Logan Paul as a celebrity in my opinion. Um, but you're giving him opportunities to have again like the Clash in Paris, him and Cena. Why does Logan Paul deserve a match with John Cena on his retirement tour when he could wrestle a guy like a Roman Reigns, talking about Cena? I just don't think it's fair to have even the Elimination Chamber. Why is Logan Paul involved? Like it takes away, at least for me, the and I know these are all superstars, but it takes away kind of the niche of being a fan of wrestling when you have somebody like a Logan Paul. Even in I Show Speed, I know that he brings attention because he's a famous streamer, I believe. But again, why is he in the Royal Rumble? Like, it just takes away, and I'm so frustrated because there's so many great talents that work hard, and it's not nepotism. It's you're favoriting the people that have the most followers when 20 years ago, like this wouldn't even be a thing.
Yeah. No, exactly. And the business has always been about where I think Terry Funk. I quote Terry Funk a lot, but Terry Funk said that when you go to and you like it to the circus, right? You have
Yeah.
the different acts on there. You have the high wire act, you have the clowns, you have whatever, right? The guy who's shot out of the cannon, whatever, the lion tamer, right? So you have many different things, many different attractions, and they all help sell tickets. And if it all comes together, then then you have a successful business. And that's one of the two best definitions of what pro wrestling is all about that I've ever heard. So you're always going to have your manufactured products, for lack of a better term. Um, and then the ones that really put in the harder work, and maybe for less recognition and maybe a lower spot on the card. But I think that but I think everybody has to add something to the overall
Yeah.
product, whatever their niche might be. And I'm still struggling to see that. You said other than the fact that he's famous to some people online. Like I don't see what he really adds, and that to me is the
No.
frustrating part.
He's not a good
Um,
heel. He just tells the crowd how much they suck. Like
yeah,
there's
well,
no
exactly.
storyline.
Well, exactly. It's it's there's a way of telling the crowd they suck
Yeah.
where it's like you get real heat. I mean, at some future point, MJF is going to come over to WWE and he will hit,
Yeah.
quickly
I
because
think when Becky Lynch, she is so funny. I think she's such a great heel because she's like, um, Sports Illustrated said I was the greatest wrestler of all time. And then she's like, Chicago, the Bears suck. Like, she'll like be so funny about it. But it's like people at least respect it because she's not just being like, oh, this is all trash here. Like, she actually puts in some effort into her promos.
oh yeah, I was just this weekend. It was from a couple months ago, but it was an in-ring promo with Becky and MCM Punk, and they were fantastic on
Oh, that
there.
was amazing.
And she, I mean, she held her own with him. And CM Punk he's maybe the best promo guy of this era,
Yeah.
but she held her own with him. I mean, it was great to watch. So
And
that's
AJ Lee returning.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's
Like,
that's having her back is that's
insane.
absolutely like that. There's some actual things to follow. Whereas
Yeah.
like after a couple of months ago, I was worried about what was going to get them through the fall because I thought they were a little bit thin, and now I actually think there's some interesting things to follow. Speaking of interesting things, so I posted this actually on Twitter the other week. I opened up the refrigerator, and there's a carton of fruit punch in there. My daughter loves fruit punch.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes is on it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, oh my god! When I was growing up watching the NWA, Dusty Rhodes,
Yeah.
like I couldn't see his dad on. but it's like they are so mainstream and they're so successful, which leads me to the real point what I'm getting at here. Bryan Danielson's recent commentary saying that he actually thinks that AEW, whether you like the promotion or you don't like the promotion, it's always a good thing to have a rival promotion. And he cited Cody as an example because if Cody had stayed in WWE all along, had nowhere else to go, and hadn't gone to AEW, become an EVP, hadn't been to the top of storylines there, and then been able to parlay that into coming back, being a main event guy, it probably wouldn't have happened. He probably would have stayed like a mid card kind of babyface, and he's right. I mean that it's so important. I think that and you can extend it beyond wrestling too, but having the rival promotion, having the competition in the business. I think at the points of time when WWF/WWE has been in its best, I think it's when they've had a rival promotion.
Yeah.
And AEW was just in Philly. I wasn't able to get to any of the shows because I'm still in Texas. I'm actually coming back for the rookie games and Flyers camp. But I get the tribalism to a degree because that's what everything is these days. Everything is tribalistic. You just turn on the news, and you can see how something is situated, right?
Yeah.
And it's all tribal. But as far as something like the wrestling business is concerned, like the competition is a good thing. The more, the better. And I think that sometimes you look at the rival promotions, and you look at people that I think sometimes they're really suited to make the transition at some point, and some people aren't. So like I think that I think MJF would be a guy who'd be perfect in WWE. Obviously, as a heel, because
He has to be.
he just loves to be the heel. But on the flip side, you look at people like the Young Bucks or whoever, and I couldn't see them making the transition. Have you ever watched somebody from a rival promotion, or I guess a conjunction promotion, I guess in the case of TNA these days, and thought, well, this person is perfect for WWE, and then they come over and they don't make it?
Not necessarily. I was following a lot of Mariah May, who is now Blake Monroe, who just recently came to the WWE and NXT. I'm a little surprised she hasn't been called up yet, just because I thought that her development in the AEW was really good, and I thought she could make it to the main roster kind of right away. But not really. I think that a lot of times, and the WWE is smart, they place them in NXT and then they kind of develop there, or they develop or they don't develop. But it's funny. I watch the AEW time to time. Not anybody in particular that I'm too fond of.
Yeah, I know. I could totally see that. For me, um, back when TNA was fashioning itself as a rival to WWE, I would watch Samoa Joe, and I would think, well, you bring him over as a monster heel, put him against Cena, whoever your top babyface is, and give him a winning streak. Because that was the whole thing. Like, in TNA, people would chant like, "Joe's going to kill you,"
Yep.
because again, a legitimate badass. And by the way, out of the ring, couldn't find a nicer guy. But you know, but I thought that this is perfect. And what the WWE did years later with Gunther, I thought they should have done with Samoa Joe. And what I think got in the way was, particularly with Vince, was Vince always had this idea of how a wrestler should look.
Yeah.
And Joe's the body beautiful type or whatever. So who's this fat Samoan guy? Like his ceiling is kind of limited. When Gunther first came in, he didn't look the part. I mean, he does more now.
No.
But he got over just because he's legit. You know this is a legitimate tough guy. So
He lost a lot of weight. Like when he was Walter, because that's his actual name and that's how he was. Like I encourage you, if you don't know what he looks like, please Google it, because the transformation was actually insane. It looks like two different people.
And final thought here, speaking of looking like two different people, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Talk about weight loss and like muscle mass loss. It's been just a few months, and
I thought that was photoshopped.
I thought it was too the first time I looked at it. I was like, no, that's not real. I mean, and they go, well, he's off of whatever chemical enhancements he was off. That doesn't happen that quick either, though.
No, that does not. I hate to say the O word, but that's like Ozempic.
Yeah.
Like, not becoming up with the conspiracy, but it's like, how do you lose that much muscle? Like, it wasn't just weight; it was muscle. Like his arms,
muscle mass. Yeah. I that was wild. That absolutely shocked me. And I guess the takeaway from that, Haley, before we wrap this up, is just that he's going on a long break because he's not coming back. He's not coming back in. So
he can't. No, it would be a bad look if he came back and cut a promo looking like that.
Yeah, for sure. Before we sign off here, I want to tell everybody what you're up to. I know you're staying very busy doing a lot of play-by-play stuff.
Only a little busy. No, but you can catch me this season, 5th season, covering the Flyers. I'll be heading down to camp next week again, so we'll be a busy 7 months ahead. But Flyers, and then for Hockey Hot Stove, I write for the St. Louis Blues, so a lot of articles will be coming out too this week and next week with camp beginning again. And here in Hockey Hot Stove, Flyers Pulse with HTS, I most recently did an interview with Riley Cote, looking to get some guys on the Flyers team on. So it should be a lot of fun. So just make sure to follow Haley T. Simon on Twitter, and stay tuned to Hockey Hot Stove for just a lot of hockey content.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Looking forward to seeing you and everybody else at training camp next week. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to try to do this probably once a month. It's obviously fun to talk the hockey side and the wrestling side. So thank you for tuning in, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Take care, everyone.